Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is me Mr. Assam Zidane, and today we are going to explain together the momentum and the change in momentum, and I hope you just enjoy your time with our session today. Good luck and let's start.
First of all يعني خلونا كده نبدأ. أول حاجة إحنا خدناها مع بعض أو هناخدها النهاردة something called momentum. طيب إيه هي المومنتم؟ إحنا if you have a car for example يعني if you have two cars, okay, one has a small mass and the other one is a truck, okay, by this way. And say for example this one has a certain velocity and the other one has the same velocity and this one has a big mass. So which one do you think it's easier to be stopped? مين هنا اللي ممكن سهل أوي؟ عندنا car A and car B. Which one it's easier to be stopped? طبعا the one which has a smaller mass easier to be stopped. أسهل واحدة ممكن تقف معانا if both have the same velocity. If both have the same velocity. If both have the same velocity, so the smaller mass easier to be stopped. سهل أوي إن إحنا نوقفها. طيب. If both have the same mass, لو أنا عندي two cars, برضو we have another car here, which is A, and A and C have the same mass, but the velocity for C is greater than the velocity of A. So which one it's easier to be stopped? مين اللي أسهل هنا إن أنا أوقفها؟ Okay, so of course the one which has a greater has less velocity. يعني A, because it has less velocity, so it's easier to be stopped. طيب إيه اللي بيحكم الكلام ده معانا؟ We have something called momentum. And the momentum of something which is related to the collision. So momentum equal mass of the object times its velocity. Mass times velocity. So momentum, B stands for the momentum, mass and velocity. Velocity is a vector quantity and mass is a scalar quantity. So scalar times vector, it gives a vector quantity. So actually, momentum is vector. So it's a vector quantity. If you ask why it's a vector quantity, so the answer will be because it's a product of mass, which is a scalar, times velocity, which is vector quantity. طيب, what about the unit for momentum? Momentum, the mass unit is kilogram, and the velocity is meter per second, or you can just say it's kilogram meter times second to the power of -1. Y divided by second, so when you put the second up, it's equal second to the power of -1. Also about the dimensions, okay, the dimensional equation for this one, the mass, or let's say this is the kilogram, so to represent the mass, which is capital M, so this is the dimension of mass, and meter, which represent the length of the object, so which is L, times second to the power of -1, second represent the time, which is T to the power of -1, and this is the dimension equation for, or dimensional formula for the momentum. Also, this about the momentum. So momentum is very important in collision. يعني احنا لما اتكلمنا على 3 cars we already have here, okay, A and B and C, the easiest one to be stopped أو سهل إن أنا أوقفها, okay, it's the A because it has a small mass and a small velocity. Type. So momentum, we study momentum because momentum is important in collisions between objects. Type. So the one which has a greater momentum, okay, it's seriously or very dangerous to collide with another object. Type. What is the relation between momentum and mass? The relation between the momentum and mass, when the mass increases, the momentum increases as well by the same factor. Yani when the mass is doubled, the momentum is doubled. And this is true if the velocity is constant. So when the velocity is constant, the momentum, when the velocity is constant, so momentum and mass are directly proportional. This means when the mass increases, the momentum increases as well. And we can see this in car A and car C. In car A and car B. Both have the same velocity, so velocity here is constant. But the one which has a small mass has a small momentum, and the one which has a greater mass has a greater momentum. What about the momentum and velocity? Also, momentum depends on the velocity when the mass is constant. So when the velocity increases, the momentum increases as well. So when the velocity doubled, the momentum doubled. When the velocity tripled, the momentum tripled. Okay guys, this is if the mass is constant, and we can see this as an example between the two cars A and C. So this is A and this is C. Both have the same mass. So the one which has a smaller velocity has a smaller momentum, and the one which has a greater velocity has a greater momentum. Sorry. And this is explained why, for example, if there is an elephant, running, it's not easy to be stopped. Why? Because the elephant has a huge mass, and its velocity has low velocity, but with this huge mass times the small velocity, it gives a huge momentum. So it's not easy to stop an elephant. The same thing within a bullet. If there is a bullet fired from a gun, so the bullet has very small mass, but at the same time it has a great and huge velocity. So this B for bullet has a small mass but has a huge velocity. So the momentum has a big momentum, but in elephant, it has huge mass, but within a small velocity, so it's also, has a huge momentum. Of course, if there is something like a rocket has a huge mass and a huge momentum, huge mass and a huge velocity, it will never be easy to stop it. And at the same time, it has a huge and a great momentum. So actually guys, momentum depends on the mass and the velocity. So if something has a huge mass, has a huge momentum. If something it's small, but at the same time it has a huge velocity, so this has a great momentum like a bullet. In both cases, if the momentum is huge, so it just created and it produces a huge damage and a lot of damage. Basically, it's not easy to be stopped. So this is the first one about the momentum. طبعا in this case ممكن يجي لي في examples اللي بتبقى موجودة معايا. The mass is given. For example, there is a toy car, its mass 2 kilograms. It's moving by velocity which is 3 meters per second. And then he asked about the momentum. So what will be the momentum? So we know that the momentum is mass times velocity. So in such case, the mass is 2 kilograms and the velocity is 3, which is equal 6. Never forget the unit. Mass is measured by kilogram and velocity is meter times second to the power of -1, and this will be the answer. So it's very simple. Question type. In collision, the velocity changes and the mass is still the same. يعني لو أنا موجود في هنا عندي there is a car or there is a ball, for example. If we have here wall, and there is a ball which is 0.2 kilogram. This ball was moving by velocity equal 3 meters per second. Okay, this velocity hits, or this ball hits the wall, okay, and rebound or reflect, okay, and reflect. It reflects by 2 meters per second. And he asks, okay, can you just figure out what is the change in the momentum? A change in anything is the momentum, final momentum minus initial momentum. Again, the change for anything in physics, this triangle means a change, so change in momentum means the momentum before minus the momentum after minus the momentum before, or the final momentum minus the initial momentum. يعني ايه الكلام ده؟ يعني say for example you found the momentum of something before collide the wall, okay, was 7. Then after colliding the wall, the momentum was 5. So the change in the momentum in this case is equal to. Okay, so لو بصينا في الإكزامبل اللي موجود عندنا هنا, so this is ball and this ball was moving by 3 meters per second. You threw a ball 3 meters per second, hit the wall, then it comes back again in the opposite direction by 2 meters per second. So the momentum, final momentum, is mass times final velocity minus mass times the initial velocity for the other momentum. Now already I told you that velocity is a vector quantity, which means direction is very important. And I explained this before in the previous lessons. In the first term, we explained that never ever give two opposite direction the same sign. يعني ايه الكلام ده؟ يعني if you have something is moving to the right, so it's positive. If you have something is moving to the left, so its direction is negative. Okay, so this is very important. So here in this example, he will never tell you which one is positive and which one is negative. So here, this velocity is positive. Why? Because it's to the right. But this velocity is negative. Why? Because it's to the left. So the mass, which is 0.2, we can here take the mass as a common factor. So here mass, which is 0.2, open a bracket, Vf minus Vi. What is Vf? Vf is negative 2. What is Vi? Which is negative 3. Okay, so at the end, it's equal 0.2 times negative, okay, 5. So it's equal almost 1, or negative 1. Negative 1, and still the unit the same. The unit is kilogram meter per second to the power, meter times second to the power of negative e to the power of negative 1. Okay guys, يبقى أنا أهم نقطة موجودة عندي هنا لما تيجي يطلب منك change in momentum أبص على الvelocity. الvelocity if لو حصل لها change in the direction, يعني كانت بتتحرك الأوبجكت كان بيتحرك في direction, then after the collision it moves in the opposite direction, so one of them must be positive and the other one must be negative. Okay guys? طيب. So Newton's law. Actually, we know this. Change in momentum now its mass, open a bracket, it's Vf minus Vi. If I take this side divided by t and this side divided by t is the time and it's called impact time. Impact time. So this is the impact time in the two sides. So actually the change in momentum, this is mass, and Vf minus Vi divided by t, this is the acceleration, and we took this before in the first term. Acceleration equal the change in velocity. And delta V divided by t, this is the force. This is the force. So actually force equal mass times acceleration, or a change in momentum divided by time. Or a change in momentum divided by time. So now we have two definitions for the force. I'm talking about the net force. Net force means the sum of all forces acting on the object. So Newton's second law said or states that والله لو أنا عندي الفورس, force is directly proportional within the acceleration of the object and within the mass. And force, وممكن أقول إن الفورس هي the rate of a change in momentum. فلو جه قال لي هنا نيوتن's second law, هقول له الكلام ده. نيوتن second law والله هو the net force acting on an object is the rate of change in momentum. Is the rate of a change in momentum. And at the same time, net force equal mass times acceleration. اللي أنا ممكن أقول إن acceleration and this is the force and mass. So acceleration is directly proportional to the force and inversely proportional to the mass. So when the force increases, the acceleration increases. يعني if I have one person push a car, is not like 5 persons push the same car. The 5 persons or the 5 people are going to push the car and accelerate it more and more. هيزودوا the speeding up of the car. ما ننساش إن acceleration معناها speed up or slow down or a change direction. Acceleration is the change in the velocity. Change in velocity means speeding up or slowing down. Okay? Type. At the same time, the relation between acceleration and mass is inversely proportional. يعني when the mass increases, the acceleration decreases. So mass and acceleration are inversely proportional. When mass increases, the acceleration decreases. Okay? So if one man push a car, small car or toy car, so this toy car, it's easy to accelerate more, speeding up easier. But if the same man push a truck or a big car, okay, it's not easy to accelerate it. تمام؟ طيب. يعني أنا النهارده لو عندي واحد وبعدين he just pushing a car بيزق عربية والعربية دي كانت توي كار، عربية صغيرة من يعني it has a small mass، فهيبقى سهل ان هي سرعتها تزيد بسرعة. لكن لو كانت العربية كبيرة طبعا مش سهل ان الكلام ده يحصل. السبب في كده the relation between mass and acceleration is inversely proportional. طيب. If you'd like to just make a relation، لو حبينا نعمل relation between momentum Okay, the relation احنا عارفين already دلوقتي ان ال P equal M times V. خلاص، فلو حطيناها في الشكل ده Y equal K or K times X. So K here represent, okay, the slope. So if I take P and V, so B and velocity. So in this case it gives you straight line, and the slope for this straight line, okay, في الحالة دي هتبقى V هي ال X و B هي ال Y, so M will be the slope. أو تقول والله P over V, okay, so this is equal M and this is the slope for M. But if we have another relation between M and P, so also gives you directly proportional, then B over M, and احنا عارفين ان ال slope change in Y divided by change on X. So B over M, this is equal velocity, so the slope in this equation is the velocity. الكلام ده لو هو سأل معانا على السلوب. طيب برضو من ضمن الحاجات اللي لازم نبقى واخدين بالنا منها في الجزئية دي، لو أنا عندي، احنا قلنا دلوقتي إن احنا عندنا إن الفورس equal change in momentum divided by time, and this is the impact time. طيب so when the force increases, this is equal mass Vf, or a change in velocity times a change. Why, for example, give reason. Why, if there is a huge truck, it needs a greater force than a car with a smaller mass. هتقول والله لأن الماss and the force are directly proportional. So when the mass increases, the force increases as well. طيب also if you need a huge change in the velocity، لو انت محتاج change in the velocity، يعني لو انت محتاج تغير ال velocity من 0 ل 10 or from 0 to 100، طب which، طبعا ال change هنا 10 وال change in the second case is 100، طب which part you needed greater force؟ مين اللي انت محتاج فيه فورس اكتر؟ اكيد لما هتزود من 0 ل 100، فانت الفورس اللي هتبقى محتاجها كل ما the change in the velocity increases, the force increases as well. So the force depends on the change in, okay, the change in the velocity. Also within the impact time، يعني when the time increases, the velocity decreases. When the time increases, the velocity decreases. Why? Because the relation between them is inversely proportional. فناخد بالنا ان انا لو عندي حاجة فوق كده numerator and denominator as time, so when the time increases, the velocity decreases. طيب احنا ممكن نستخدم الكلام ده فين في حياتنا؟ احنا طبعا كلنا بنستخدم الكلام ده in our life applications، بس ممكن ما نبقاش واخدين بالنا منه. ازاي يعني؟ For example، لو انت معاك كوباية والكوباية دي there is a glass and you dropped it for example in below، تمام؟ So when this one dropped in below and it dropped at the same time or the first time you drop it in below، رميتها على مخدة أو على حاجة زي كده، طيب وبعدين رجعت رميتها تاني نفس الكوباية على الأرض أو على البلاط، okay, on the floor. What happens? In the first case, the force acting, okay, in the first case، يعني لو خدنا هنا ناخد كده example للكلام ده، نبص كده، بص كده معايا. هنا this egg just fall safely، يعني nothing happens. ليه؟ لأن ال impact time to stop this egg once it touches the below، okay, so the time has a big time، فبالتالي ال force will has a small force acting. So this is called impact time and this is called the impact force. طيب In this case, okay, it just hit the ground immediately. So there is no here, the impact time will be very small impact time, but at the same time, if the small impact time, we know that the relation between force and time, again, it's inversely, and when the time increases, the force decreases as well. So the T here, okay, the time, when the time is small, so the force is big. So this impact force is enough to break down, okay, the egg. طيب برضو نفس القصة, okay, in the same story here within a car. In car we use airbag. Why we use airbag? At the same time, okay, the car is damaged, destroyed, okay? So the force here is destructive force on the car. The reason for this, because the car just stopped immediately, so the impact time was small, so the force will be huge. But once you are using airbag, لما هستخدم الairbag, so this increases the impact time, فالimpact time هيبقى هنا big impact time, so the force acting on the man will be small and safe force, so it just save its life. Okay guys, طيب example برضو للكلام ده, when someone just when you drop something in water, لما بنرمي حاجة في المية ايه اللي بيحصل؟ It takes a long time, okay, until it stops. يعني if there is here someone, this is water surface, and someone he just jump in water, so before it touches the ground or touch the water surface, say for example its velocity was 10, then at the end, once this man stop, لما هيجي هيقف هنا, okay, so its velocity will be 0. تمام؟ طبعا this takes certain time. Just imagine the same man, he just jump to hit the floor. طبعا this time will be very small time, so the force acting on this man will be huge force, but the force here, because the time is big, so the force will be smaller force, and this is called the impact force. So actually guys, the relation between force and time, it's inversely proportional. And we explain مع بعض momentum and a change in the momentum and in Newton's second law. Okay, and in the next video, inshallah, we are going to talk about the mass and weight and how to answer the problems. Thank you very much.